Okay, so before we choose our rock from Quixel Bridge Megascans and scatter it all over the ground here, I want to check if our ground plane is the correct size. So if we can make it smaller, I would like to do that just to speed things up. So I'm gonna turn off the display for these items. And since our camera is pretty much done now, we can take a look inside our ground plane and see if we can make this smaller or move it to the back a little bit more. So we'll check the size, 45. Yeah, so this pretty much, oh, we can maybe move it to the left 5 meters. Okay. So we can get away with this. It's not much, but it's something. And maybe we can move it backwards. Let me check that. Oh, this is the wrong way. Okay, so let's scrub through the camera animation and see if we start seeing the end. So we can do more. Let's do a -12. Whoops, -9. Let's check this out. Okay, so we can get away with this. Okay, so what we did is we just moved the entire plane backwards a bit. A bonus is that we can now see further into the scene. All right. So I'm gonna just turn this on again. Oops. Select this, turn it on. Okay. Now let's open Bridge. Okay, so the rock I'm going to use for the scattering is this one, the Icelandic rock. And because the rocks are gonna be pretty small, I'm just gonna make the texture resolution 2K. We can leave the level of detail at 0 because we'll change it inside Houdini. Now remember, we disabled the scattering function before. So if we go to our plugin, here, we have to enable use Megascans scattering. So it gives us the option to scatter the asset. Okay. So this is fine. Export. Export it successfully. So here it is. I will put it in my source. Let's make some room. So let's first change the level of detail. So go inside here. Let's take a look up close. Whoops. Where's my rock? Pressing G, okay. When you get lost in your viewport, just press G and it will reset. Okay, so this is our rock. I'm probably gonna go with 3. You could also do 4, but let's just go with 3. We still have some nice detail in here. Okay, so in here we have our scatter setup. Let's go back to camera view and look at it like this. So in default it scatters to a grid that is defined in here. Okay, and inside here we have our source object, which is the rock, and we have a grid. So it will now put some points on the grid, and then it will copy 2 points, so each rock will be assigned to a point on that grid. Now this is a little bit different from the previous Megascans version for Houdini, but I believe if we just say another object merge here, and we'll select our ground plane here, ground plane, out ground plane. And if we replace this, Yeah, so now it scatters on our ground plane. So we can delete the grid, put this in place, and now we can adjust the scatter settings in here. So we can force a total count, say max count. We can change the seed. We can change the scale, rotations, and all that good stuff. So let's take a look at a reference photo I took back in Iceland. So let's take a look at this photo. So the cool thing is that there's just a couple of bigger rocks, and then there's a shitload of smaller rocks. And that's the same way that the current setup is. So if we go to the settings, check the P scale. So as you can see, there's a lot of small rocks, and then there's only like 10% of them are big. But overall, the scale of these rocks is too big. So let's change the P scale minimum. So here you start to see we have a lot of small rocks and then just a couple of big ones. Let's zoom out a bit. I think the total count should be a bit higher. I just disabled max points because, I'm just gonna force the count. Maybe 350 or 400. Okay, let's play around with these P scale settings again. So I kind of like the size of these bigger rocks. The smaller ones can be maybe, well, they're fine too. But I want a little bit more of the big ones. So I'm just gonna add to this ramp. I'm just gonna add more big rocks. So something like this, and then maybe spike it up higher here. Okay, so now we have more big rocks. And the big rocks are too big. So let's scale them down. Okay, let's go to our top view for a second. So 2 on the numpad, only once though. And let's take a look at our top view. The ship is gonna emerge here and it's gonna hit all the rocks that are in its way. So I definitely want to have 1 or 2 big ones that it's gonna hit, and then a couple of small ones. So it's not gonna hit a whole lot of rocks, so I'm gonna up the total count again to have some more. And then we can play around with the global seed. So what I'm looking for is to have some big rocks on top of the ship. So now it is 1. Okay, so now we have 2 rocks, 2 big rocks. Let's see if we can get something better. Okay, so this is also pretty cool. We have 2 big ones on the wings. Let's go back to our camera view. Okay, so this is also looking pretty cool. Let's change the size of the big ones. They can be a bit smaller. And let's make the little ones also smaller. Okay. So let's go back to our object level. Okay, so that's looking pretty cool. We have some rocks scattered all over the place. We have to disable this rock here because this is our geo rock. So that's not from the scatter. That's just the base rock, if you may say. So delete that. Okay. So that's good for now. We will call this our rock source.